So, yeah, welcome once again, and we've got a few more people joined. So, welcome to you who have joined in the last sort of 5 or 10 minutes. So, this theme I want to talk about, which is really all about breathwork and the theme of self-acceptance and how we move from dealing with challenges such as social anxiety to a place of sort of greater peace in ourselves, a place where we are able to accept what's happening more, and find a way through challenges that trigger these sorts of reactions. I first had the sort of idea for this theme, this title, Perfect Body, Perfect Mind. It was about 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, and I wrote it in a minibus when I was on touring around Scotland somewhere. That's where I wrote some of the original text for the company website. And I didn't really know what it was going to be about. So this is like 5 years ago. I just had this title and a paragraph, and that was it. And for a long time, I thought, I think these are going to be retreats, but I wasn't really convinced to myself that that's what it was going to turn out. And, this year with COVID, and what's happened is, I've moved a lot of this work online, and most of it right now. And it became apparent that actually I was going to develop this theme into an online offering, this theme of self-acceptance. And that's where it's kind of come from. So I'm glad it's found a home after all these years. And what I've been doing over the last couple of months is I personally have been in an online course. This might sound a bit confusing, but I've been in an online course all about building online courses. So through that process, I've been working on this course, this theme on self-acceptance. And as part of that, one of the things I've been doing as part of the course is initiating conversations with people. So there's quite a few people here that I've talked to over the last couple of months, really to find out, what your experience of, social anxiety, self-acceptance, self-esteem, how you relate to that theme, what's happening in your life, how you respond to my kind of initial proposals. And I just found that an incredible experience. I found it a really moving experience. I'm quite emotional just mentioning that. And I really thank everyone who I talked to really deeply, because it was really extremely rewarding for me. Not, as a byproduct, yes, developing the course, but really just in terms of connecting with people and hearing from people and, finding out what matters to you and, having the honor of hearing your challenges and having you open up to me about what you grapple with was just such a moving experience. So I just have to bow to you for that. So thank you very much. It was quite incredible for me. So I really thank you for taking part in that. It was lovely. So what's happened is out of those conversations, I recorded them all, and I had a I was supposed to restrict them to like 20 minutes. That was the course. I was talking to like some people for like an hour and a half. And then I was having to like sort of go through them and work out actually what people were saying to me. So I was kind of lost in this world of other people's words for quite a while. But it was just so rich. It was so enjoyable. I just loved talking to people. And it was really great to hear everyone's stories. So I finally emerged from that and sort of picked out some general themes that kind of came out of all these conversations. And this seminar is really the product of those conversations and the context of where we were holding those conversations in terms of the theme. And so, what came out, one thing was there was quite a lot of challenge for folk around the issue of feeling safe to communicate in like a group, feeling safe in company, feeling safe in the body, even feeling safer environment. About thinking about other people's judgments of us, going into situations where we worry about what people are thinking about us, sort of negative self-talk. And that can be anything from just holding back a little bit, not kind of fully participating to, full on like being really kind of frozen, not being really able to respond how we want in a situation. And, how debilitating that can be in terms of how we connect with people and how we want to participate. And what it, what it sort of brought to light is that the yearning that we have to actually participate and the yearning we have to connect with people, and how thwarted we can get when something like anxiety gets in the way. When our fear of judgment, our fear of rejection, our fear of it can be an embedded fear of some kind of physical impact that's going to happen if we step forward in ourselves. And these are sort of greatly embedded kind of feelings that we can all carry, but how much that can hinder our ability to communicate and our ability to connect and our ability really to offer, what we want to offer in the world. There's things that we want to put out there, and there's things we want to share, and things we want to share and have received by the world. And to have these sort of desires thwarted basically by our anxieties and our fears can be quite at least a debilitating process, or an off-putting process. And it's been really interesting for me, developing this, because I've noticed so much about myself that I hadn't in relation to this particular theme. I mean, as soon as it started, I thought, situations were coming up really quickly, and I thought, I'm going to have to start practicing all the things that I imagine I'm going to be sharing. And it really, I thought I dealt with things like quite a few years ago. I thought I dealt with that, and I dealt with that, and I dealt with that. And really just, out with a group of friends, even just like a couple of weeks ago, and just noticing where I hold back, where I feel inhibited to participate, because I'm scared someone is not going to be well received in a way. And then thinking, I thought, God, I do this in so many places in my life, but we sometimes don't even notice that we're doing it. So this was the main sort of theme that emerged. And another one was really the whole idea of, how we value ourselves, not valuing ourselves enough, not valuing our own opinions well enough to offer them, to bring them in. Not valuing ourselves enough to ask for what we want, to include ourselves, to ask for our needs to be met, to speak our mind. So these things, I think, go kind of part and parcel with both different sides of the same coin in a way. So that's the situation, and what can we do about it? If you relate to this at all, it's like, well, how do we manage this? How do we move past this? How do we resolve it in a way so that we can participate more fully? And the first thing I would say is, let's not beat ourselves up about it. It's not, don't give yourself a hard time because the way you respond in situations. Because one of the things that can happen is we go into a situation and we don't respond the way we want. We might get anxious. We might think we've made a fool of ourselves. We might not say the things we want. We come out with thinking, oh God, that all went terribly wrong. I feel like such an idiot. I've ruined the whole evening. It's all gone to pot. I feel terrible. Pass me the drink, pizza, bag of crisps, TV, whatever it is we use to make ourselves feel better. So it's a good idea, not to beat ourselves up, and instead actually to be kind to ourselves around what we feel. Because, what's driving our thinking a lot of the time is really early experiences that haven't been resolved. By early, I mean experiences back in infancy, experiences relating to our own birth, sometimes experiences in the womb. These can really impact us so deeply and sort of formulate our way of looking at the world and how we see the world, that they're hidden beneath view in our bodies. We can't really see them a lot of the time. They're so deeply suppressed. We don't really have access to them. And they're parts of us that were really young. They're like baby who's been born or infant. And, you can't imagine going into a situation and with an infant who gets really upset and you're like, pull yourself together, you should be doing better. You should never behave like that in that company. Shape up. It's not really going to be that helpful. Actually, these parts of us need probably just some kind words spoken, some soothing words, some, pick it up and carry it in a way. So we can have a dialogue with this part of ourselves. So if we're feeling anxious about something, we're going into a situation, it's like have a dialogue with it and say, well, what do you need? How do you feel? And you most likely get a response back. You can have a conversation, and it might be, yeah, I can keep you safe. Don't worry. If it gets too much, we'll exit. You can trust me in that. You might have to reassure yourself in some way, rather than feeling bad about it, to actually see what's required to kind of tune into your own feelings and see, what's the response that's needed here? What am I hearing? And it might be, okay, we'll go in this situation for like an hour, and if it's no good, we'll leave. Or you're right, this isn't a good idea. I should have listened to you. I mean, that kind of our anxieties can really inform us that actually the situation we're going into is not a good one if we can tune into it and listen. So these are not feelings that we want to dismiss and give ourselves a hard time about it, because they can be really useful and they have validity, and they originate, most likely very, very early in our life, and need to be taken care of in a way. And the other thing is, it's not all of who we are. What happens with these experiences is when we experience something traumatic or uncomfortable that we can't deal with at the time because we're so young. What happens is we suppress the feeling in our body, and we have thoughts about the experience, that can become part of our belief system, become part of our worldview. And we build up these beliefs over time as all these different experiences we take on. And we have this whole kind of thought process, this whole belief structure. And it doesn't mean it's necessarily true. It might have been useful at that time to protect ourselves. But here, all these decades later, it may not have validity, it may not be true. And it's not really who we are. Our experiences and our thoughts and our emotions are not really who we are. It's a mental construct, it's a belief system, it's an unresolved experience we hold in our body. And so the more we're able to let go of those beliefs and resolve these experiences we hold in our body, the more actually our natural self, our true self, it's a funny word to use, I think, sometimes, but who we actually are is allowed to kind of come through. It's like wiping the windscreen clean, dissolving these beliefs that filter our whole experience. Actually, who we are is allowed to kind of actually show itself more. And so, this theme of a return to self-acceptance, that's really what I mean. It's not like there's anything wrong with us. There's nothing needs to be fixed. We're not broken. There's nothing inherently within us that needs to be changed in any way. It's just our way of looking at things and the beliefs that we've developed, our strategies for surviving, that are triggering certain responses in how we experience our life. So, how can breathwork help us with all of this? So, what breathwork really allows us to do is to access these unresolved experiences that we hold in our body, and allows us to integrate them. And I use this word integrate a lot. What I mean by that is it means bringing them out of suppression into our conscious awareness. So the breath is this amazing vehicle we have that's conscious and unconscious. So we have access to the subconscious through our breath. It's one of the interesting things about breath work. It allows us to begin to open up what we hold in ourselves that has been shut away for years or decades for most of our life, to gradually bring that into view. And as we do that, we release the beliefs that we formed around that experience. They just kind of dissolve. They no longer operate our lives. We often don't see them when we work through breath work. We just find a way of integrating the experience that might be just through feeling things in the body. It might be through an experience of deep relaxation. It might be through insights we get. We might get memories. We might see visions. It gives us a really unique way of processing what we hold subconsciously and integrating it so that the energy we use to hold it is free for us to actually live. We're not using it to kind of hold on to these past experiences. And that process of integration is fundamentally about acceptance. Breathwork fundamentally is a process of acceptance. When we do a breathwork session, when we experience a pain or an ache or an emotion, what we're doing is we're bringing them into view and we're accepting them into our experience. That's really what happens. And when we do that, we're more whole. We've accessed another part of us. We've brought that into, the totality of our awareness of who we are. We're more complete. And every time we do that, we're able to inhabit our body a little more. It's like when we hold all these experiences in our body, our spirit can't really fully settle in the body. We've got so much suppressed emotion. We can't really inhabit ourselves fully. So every time we kind of integrate something, we settle a little bit more, we feel more in ourselves. And breathwork is really a process of becoming more and more embodied, more and more into your body, more and more here, more and more present. And as we do that, we feel more connected to ourselves. We feel safer because we're actually here in our body. And that's what brings a sense of safety. It's what brings a sense of belonging, and it's what brings a sense of connection. It's actually being here. When we have trauma, we tend to disassociate. The parts of us can evacuate completely. And it drives us into our thinking process. So when we get these states of anxiety, it tends to sort of propel us into our head and overthinking all the time, and the wheels are really spinning. And breathwork really enables us to gradually come out of that and gradually come out more in our body. And that makes us feel good. That's the bottom line. That makes us feel good about ourselves. It's like a natural feeling of well-being. And everything else comes from that. So it doesn't really matter what the situation is. Even if it's challenging in a way, if we have that overall sense of safety and belonging because we're here in our body, we just feel connected all the time, and less impacted by experiences outside of ourselves. So that's one of the premises of breathwork. Really, it's fundamentally a process of acceptance and coming here. and enabling us to respond from a more grounded place. The original name for breathwork, at least the lineage I'm part of, was rebirthing. So that's the original school I come from, Leonard Orr's rebirthing. And when people do this process, when people engage with this process, quite often reflections of the birth experience will come up in sometimes subtle or not so subtle ways. And this was coming up a lot in the early days of breathwork, but I often see it. It brings us back to these really early experiences. And it does give us a vehicle for accessing, the sort of fundamental scripts that are running our life. And they can be operating without us even knowing it. And we have sort of worldviews such as like the world is hostile. If you had a really traumatic birth experience, or you weren't well received, you experienced hostility, and that is your worldview. It's not surprising that we're going out into the world and we're feeling like the world is hostile. That's a deeply embedded kind of worldview that we're not really aware of. Or, I'm not wanted. We might have picked that up before we're even born. I'm not wanted, or the world is an unsafe place. Or it might be the reverse. It might be, I am absolutely loved. Or the world is a beautiful place. We might have those operating for different parts of ourselves. Or, I don't have a right to be here. That's one that I've seen a lot with people who come to work with the breath, is I don't have a right to be here. When we carry these sorts of scripts, what happens is the mind, once we've decided this is the situation, the world is hostile, or don't have a right to be here, the mind likes to be right about it. So the mind keeps on creating circumstances that reflect that, and we get to prove it over and over and over again. Yeah. So the world is indeed hostile. That's what we're looking out for all the time. Or I'm not wanted here. So breathwork really allows us to access these really early experiences and undo these scripts, to really kind of let them go, so that they don't operate and kind of run our lives anymore. And when I did my breathwork training, one of the sort of first script that I came up with, they were looking at something that's called the personal lie, or the personal law, which is really like your fundamental kind of root belief that all the other branches come off, a personal lie. And for me, that was, I don't deserve to live. That's really unhelpful. It doesn't lead to a happy experience. And I turned that around during my first training week, which was, God wants me to live. That's the language I use. God wants me to live. And that was much more helpful. That was a much more helpful premise to live my life. And, years later, when I moved to the village here in Comrie, I realised another one that was kind of operating for me was, I'm not welcome. I had this belief I'm not welcome. And I thought, you ain't going to move from here. This is where you're going to live. So you better get over this one too. You better sort it out, because it's not true, And actually to just behave like that wasn't true anymore, that actually you are welcome, that people do want to know you. So it's good to be aware of what these beliefs are, what these early scripts are, the personal lie, and to find a way of turning them around. And breathwork, again, that gives us a process for doing that, and for coming to a more positive outlook on life. My 7 top tips for transforming your experience. They're not really so much tips as like full-on processes and things to engage with. And they go from the more immediate to actually a sort of bigger context for approaching things. So I'm going to start at number 1 and go through to number 7. And this gives you a flavor of the different processes that I apply when I come up against my own kind of challenges with things, basically. So number 1 is tell the truth. Top tip number 1, tell the truth. And what I mean by that is, first of all, tell the truth to yourself about what's happening. Rather than what you want to be happening and how you wish things were, it's what's actually happening. I'm going out tonight and I'm feeling anxious. No, I'm not. I'm fine. I'm fine. No, actually, I'm anxious. That's the truth here. That's the situation. And to, if it's appropriate, to carry that sense of telling the truth out into our dialogues with people. How are you? Oh, it's all good. It's all fine. No, actually, I feel shit. That's the truth. And what that does is it really allows us to be here. It really allows us actually to be present to what we're feeling by telling the truth about it. And anytime we don't do that, we create a disconnect in ourselves. We create a little knot in the psyche. It's a sort of disconnect between different parts of us. So if we are saying to ourselves or to the world, all's well, and actually some part of us is screaming, no, I'm feeling really anxious. I'm feeling scared. I'm feeling, I don't want to do this thing you want to do. There's a conflict right there. So just to name it and say, this is how I feel. This is the truth of it, is an essential first step. I say is essential. Step 2, so step 1, tell the truth about our experience. Step 2 is find a place to be okay with what is happening. Find a place to be okay. Now I'm going to explain what I mean by this. So I got up this morning, I think, okay, I've got this seminar tonight. I've never done this before. And, how do I feel about that? Well, I'm a bit anxious. This is a new thing for me. I don't know quite who's coming on the call, and I'm a bit anxious. So I asked myself the question, am I okay with that? I did that this morning, by the way. I'm working through this text. Am I okay? And the answer was yes, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with being a bit anxious because, this is new. It's understandable to be a bit anxious. And actually, if I wasn't anxious, it would probably be a bit too laid back for it. I wouldn't do enough prep. I wouldn't, make an effort to prepare myself better. It's like when I play a gig, I do music, there's always a bit of anxiety to see what happens, to see how the performance goes, to see actually what happens. So I was all right with it, and that's where I stop. I'm okay with it. I can go forward with that. But it might be, am I all right with this feeling? No, actually, I don't like it. I don't like this feeling. I wish it was something else. I wish I was, more peaceful. And you can say to yourself, okay, am I okay with not wanting anxiety? Am I okay with, wanting to be at peace with myself? You can say, yeah, that's what I want. That's the place of okay for me. That's that feels right. I don't want this feeling. That's what's true. I'm okay with that. And I'm going to go out with this feeling, knowing that I don't really want it. Or you could say, no, I'm not okay with that. I want to be okay with my experience, whatever it is. I want to be able to go out and I want to be totally at peace with whatever is happening in my life. That's how I want it to be. That's not how it is, but that's how I want it to be. Am I okay with that? Yes, I'm okay with that desire. Did you follow that? Could I have a show of hands if you understood that or not? I didn't get it for a long time. It's like progressively looping back. It's a bit cerebral in a way, but it's very useful for in the moment. Am I okay with my experience? Yes, move on. Am I okay? No. Am I okay with not being okay? Yeah, okay. It allows us to find a level where we're actually at peace with the situation. Another example I use is, you're meditating and trying to get this place of quiet, and someone's putting on the stereo next door, and it's making a heck of a racket, and you can't concentrate. You might say, am I okay with that? Yeah, I can live with that. I can meditate with that. I can use that for my meditation, no problem. Am I okay with that? No, I want them to turn the music off. It might be you go say, can you please turn the music off? And now I feel okay. I'm reaching a place of okay. I'm okay with not wanting that, and I've got a desire to change my experience. So tell the truth, find a place of okay. Number 3 is feel what's happening in your body. So if you go into a situation, or you're going into a situation and you feel, anxious or scared or upset or resistance or whatever it is, where do you feel that in your body? What's it actually feel like? Because a lot of the time we're being propelled into the head and we're overthinking. So actually, what's happening in the body? And if you really just tune into the sensations, that helps us bring us into this sort of attitude of integration. You don't necessarily need to go into a breathwork session to do it. We can just actually feel what's happening in the body and tune into sensation. And that might be enough. That might be enough just to bring us more into the present and to sort of integrate a little experience of discomfort, or to integrate anxiety we feel in our belly. So feel what's happening in the body. There's a book by Michael Brown called The Presence Process. Very good. I highly recommend it. His whole approach is 15 minutes breathing twice a day and feeling what's happening in your body. That's the essence of it, as a way of just integrating our experience. So that can bring us out of the head and actually bring us more into the body, more into the present. Step 4, or number 4, I think if you did all these in a winter, you'd never go out for the night. You'd be indoors. Number 4 is breathe. Yeah. So remember to breathe. So what you can do is really nice, slow, big belly breathe. Yeah, nice, slow belly breathe. We're doing a bit of that at the start. This helps calm you down. So what happens with fear and anxiety is we come up into the chest, we shallow breathe, inhaling too much. So actually allow our breathing to slow down, or allow ourselves to really, really exhale, breathe into the belly. This is more restful for your body. When we're breathing the chest all the time, it puts too much strain on the body. Breathe into the belly. And what this does, this engages the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the calming response, and starts to slow the whole thing down. So if it's possible, give yourselves a bit of time every day to do some nice, deep, slow belly breathing. It can help really calm us down. Or in the moment, we feel something in our body, just breathe into it. Just breathe in. So what does that feel like? Breathe as a way of accepting it. Actually, helps us get more in touch with our feelings by really breathing and feeling what's happening in the body. So nice, big, slow belly breathe will help calm the system down, basically. Now, coming back a bit, so this is sort of like things you can do kind of in the moment, approaching a situation. What I do a lot of the time, and this is really an integral part of the breathwork process, is to set an intention before I engage with an experience. If something challenging is coming up, or I've got a decision to make, or I'm worried about how something is going, it's like, well, how do I want this to turn out? How do I want to be in this situation? My intention is to be at ease with my anxiety. That could be one. I'm not going to vanquish it completely. I'm going to make a decision. My intention is to be at ease with it. My intention is to look after myself well. My intention is to ask for what I want. We can set intentions around situations we're going into or for our life in general. But it's really good to use them for specific things. Or the other side of it is, something's happened, there's been an upset, you responded in a way that was, challenging, and you've got some emotional impact from that. It hasn't gone as well as you would like it to have gone. And it's like, well, okay, that's happened this time. What do I need from this? How do I want this situation to be different? And can I set an intention around that? So that I'm using my experiences all the time to start steer my thinking in a better direction. So what happened for me recently was I had this tiny thing. You look at it, think that's a tiny thing, and I got really upset about it. There's actually a few things piled on top, but this was the final straw. I got really upset, and I didn't, explode or go mad, but I just, I'm upset here. And what it triggered was a feeling of exclusion for me. That's one of my triggers. I felt excluded, and so I'm kind of like I'm sitting with it. I said, okay, well, what do I want from this situation in the future? So my initial intention was, my intention is to be at ease with feeling excluded. My intention is to be okay with that. That's the sort of bottom line. So that happens, I'm willing for it to happen so I can get used to the feeling of being excluded. I'm not going to push it away and say, I'm going to get used to this. And then, a few days later, things have kind of moved on for me, and I've kind of integrated something as, my intention is to ask to be included, is to ask for what I need to be included. And that's what I did. A particular situation came up and I said, can I have this happen, please? Bringing myself in, So my intention was, to ask for what I needed, basically, in order that I felt included. So you're using your situations to see, well, what do I need? What do I want? And writing it down on a bit of paper, or just, remembering, my intention is to ask for what I need to be included. My intention is to, whoever it is for you in your particular situation. We're going to do that very shortly, by the way. We're going to look at a situation in your own life. So set an intention. Use your experiences to set intentions and steer your thinking. It's like this idea that the mind wants to be right about something. Give it something else to orientate towards, instead of the world being hostile, or instead of feeling excluded. Like, what do I want? What do I want to look for in my life? And start to create that for yourself. Next one is do a breathwork session, a full breathwork session. So take that intention and do a breathe with it. So if you've not done the process before, I'm aware there's some people on the call that have done a few sessions with me, and there's others that haven't. But what you do when you do the process is you can set an intention and bring that into the breathe. And that is a way of orientating yourself towards what you want. It says, this is where I want to go. This is the direction I want to travel in. This is what I want to be happening. This is how I want to be. I'm going to breathe on that. I'm going to bring that into creation. And by doing the process, it allows us to clear up what is in the way of us fulfilling our intention. We're not going to go looking for problems. We're going to orientate towards what we want to create, what we want for ourselves. And anything that's in the way of that will come up to be cleared, basically, either in a session or in our life. It comes up in sessions as, feelings, sensations, experiences. It'll come up in our life as certain circumstances will magically manifest for us to be able to integrate something. It may or may not be comfortable, but they happen. But it gives a way to resolve things, and every time we do, we become more at home in ourselves. We become a little more peaceful. We get a little more clarity. Become a bit more of who we want to be. So use a breathwork session to kind of supercharge your intentions, basically. Okay, last one. And I think this one is really, really potent. And it's maybe not so obvious, but I call it, having an inspiring vision. Having a powerful motivator. Because we have all these experiences that are, driving our anxieties, driving our fears, driving our resistances. They may or may not be comfortable. We usually think they're uncomfortable and they turn out to be not as bad as we thought. Actually, when we feel things, they're always okay. But we tend to not to want to go near things. So if we just have, a kind of motivator that's like, yeah, it'd be quite nice to get, sort of over this, I guess, in a way, it might feel a bit better, I think. Yeah, that would be all right, wouldn't it? That's not really going to, be a strong enough pull probably for us to work through some things we need to work through. But if we can develop, a strong motivation, a strong vision for ourselves, a strong intention, something that really pulls us, then the things along the way will be minor inconveniences, basically. They may or may not seem like that sometimes, but they'll be, because we have a strong pull towards something, we're willing to go through what we need to get there. So one example for me that's really obvious was when I met my now wife many years ago. That was a powerful kind of destination for me, was getting together with this woman, and I had to work through a lot of things to enable that to happen. But I knew I wanted it to happen, and that was a strong motivation for me to get through a lot of things that were in the way of me committing in a relationship. You know, so another one, for me, I'm in this business, I'm developing this business, and that brings up challenges like all the time. There's always a new thing to learn, something myself I need to kind of get through to make things happen. Resistances that I have to overcome myself, but I have a really, really strong motivation to put this work into the world. Really strong. And I have a very, very strong vision for myself about why I do that, and how I see that as a useful thing for me to do. So I am willing to do all these things to make that to happen. Because I want this work to reach a lot of people. So anything I do that's a challenge in the way is like, okay, I just need to do it and get through it. So it's like finding for yourself, what is your motivator? What do you want to be happening in your life that's not happening just now? Or what you want out of a particular situation, what would it bring you? And then, where would that take you? It's like, take it a step further. If you had that, where would it take you? What is possible? That's where you start to open up our vision. So I think a really powerful vision for ourselves, a powerful motivator, is something that can really help us work through. And it enables us to give the things that we want for ourselves, and it takes us the places we want to be. This is the biggest gift we can really give to ourselves, actually, to orientate ourselves towards what we want for ourselves. Whether that's a better sense of connection in the world, or something around our family or our work, or our way of being in the world. To give us these things is an act of self-care. So it's a really good idea to get clear about what you want and what you want to happen for yourself. So this theme I've been talking about tonight, I'm offering a new course on this called Perfect Body, Perfect Mind. And it's live now on the website, actually, as of today. And it's really around this theme about transforming our experiences of social anxiety, unsafeness, difficulty with participating, those sorts of themes, into this broad appreciation of who we are, actually coming to a place of self-acceptance and using the breath to help us move there. And the object of the course is to help you learn how to do it for yourself, help you learn how to use breath work to enable that transformation for yourself. So that's what we work on, and it's going to be starting on Tuesday the 25th, so it's just 2 weeks' time, on a Tuesday night, 7 o'clock till about 9:15. So it runs for 6 weeks. Each week we basically approach the theme from a slightly different angle. There's different ways I approach it. So we've got a different theme every week, all different portals into the same theme. And it's the first time I'm going to be running the course, so it's what I call a pilot course. And I'm only taking 10 lucky people onto it, and 2 people I know are on it already. So there's 8 spots left. So if that appeals at all, then I just invite you to have a conversation with me if you're interested. And you want to find out more about it, then I'll get in touch by email. I'm going to be emailing you anyway afterwards, but I just invite you into, you want to explore it and see if it's something you might want to do. Have a conversation with me, and take it from there if it appeals. And that's the nub of it. It's when I finish the full course eventually, probably in a year's time, once a few run-throughs, it's going to be £197, but right now I'm doing it for 97. I'll do it like that for at least this time. So that's where it is just now. And that's the pitch in a way. So thank you for coming along and hearing that. And I'd be delighted if more people joined the course. Basically, I'd be absolutely thrilled to have people on board. And it's very much going to be a case of taking very much into account the participants' needs in the group. Say it's a pilot, so there's a structure there, but that is going to be responsive to what people want from it. That will help steer what happens during the weeks and the process that unfolds, and about various ways of taking account of that through the course. So it's a really amazing opportunity to get lots of support with this process, basically. I'm offering various calls before, during, and after the course where I engage with you one-on-one to support you with it, as well as the group calls. It'll be running this sort of format on Zoom, a group call for a couple of hours, but there'll be one-on-one input as well. And it'll be a beautiful experience. So before we all go, I just want to thank you for taking part. I know I've run on a bit. I did say approximately my time, so I'm okay with that. But thank you for taking part and hearing this seminar. And if you got any questions, you want to ask anything, I'm just going to unmute you all now. If not, and you want to dash off, I just thank you and wish you all the best with the rest of your evening and week. And if anyone wants to hang around afterwards, just have a chat, that's most welcome too. Okay, I'll officially declare at the end and open for questions. Thank you very much.